Greetings, my name is Timothy Halloran. In these bi-weekly videos, we're discussing the nature of the times. Today is Tuesday the 15th. We're talking about mid to the end of January 2019. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. This is a powerful period of change. We are in the midst of eclipses. Eclipses are renowned for being this period of exciting change. It's a time where astrologers are very busy. Eclipses happen when there is a new or a full moon, which is aligned with the moon's nodes. Those point where the moon passes the magical line of the ecliptic. Hence, eclipses happen when either a new moon is blocking out the sun or we have a full moon where the Earth's shadow is cast upon the moon. We're talking about a total full moon lunar eclipse coming up either the 20th or the 21st of January at the first degree of Leo. Now, to begin with, in the last video, we talked about the partial solar eclipse, which was the new moon kicking off this lunar cycle. A new moon always sets the theme or the tone for the coming cycle, the coming month. That last partial solar eclipse fell in between Saturn and Pluto, around 15 degrees of Capricorn, and we titled this last video, Restructuring the Paradigm. Okay, so there's been a lot of restructuring on many dimensions: physical, emotional, metaphysical, philosophical. It is this total time of upheaval. And again, last week I said, don't just take my word for it. We can see this upheaval happening in the world. We are getting a good dose of foreshadowing of the changes that will be globally occurring through the years to come. So this is a very exciting period, and I've been hearing a full spectrum of experiences, observing what other people are going through. For many people, this can be very empowering, uplifting, coming into new cycles, coming into new phases, a new sense of identity and direction. And also, this can be a tremendously tumultuous or emotional period. You know, when we talk about this lunar eclipse, a lunar eclipse can be very emotionally charged. There can be the releasing of so many feelings, and not all of these feelings need to have to be necessarily pleasant. There can be a releasing of inadequacy or aimlessness, purposelessness, grief. And really, this period, there is a collective feel of anxiety and worry about the state of the world. There is this sense that tectonic plates are shifting, that big things are happening, and there is a lot of collective fear which people are experiencing. And so I just want to offer as a friendly reminder, if you're tuning into that collective dis-ease, disrest, that fear, that anxiety, it's not actually the end of the world, although it may feel like it at times. There is this collective grief as we are coming to terms with where we are and the work that we are being called to do at this time. Again, the last video, the partial eclipse in Capricorn, we really went into the details of this work and really accepting our human incarnation as not having to be perfect, not having to be ideal, and that not necessarily a reflection of anything we're doing wrong. It is a reflection of what it means to be a human being. We came here to do this work, and in that regard, there is a need to be accountable and responsible for our own world and life, though we cannot carry it on our shoulders or blame ourselves or point the finger and blame everybody else. Life is complicated. We're looking at our collective history, what we've experienced in the past, the traditions, the religions, the cultures, and how those things have brought us to where we are in a positive way, and what things need to change, what things may have been misled. And there is this crumbling, this dissolving that can open up new dimensions and a new sense of focus, direction, and purpose by aligning with this work that does have a connection and a sense of purpose in the world. Now, I'll begin this video by talking about some of the planetary aspects going on these few weeks, and then we'll hone in on the nature of this lunar eclipse in Leo. So to begin with, a couple days ago, Mercury joined Saturn on Sunday the 13th, and in a few days from now, Mercury will join Pluto on Friday the 18th. So Mercury is in between Pluto and Saturn right now, and we can really have this penetrative lens that is seeing very deeply, very practically. This is a time for important conversations. This is about real talk. This is about how are we functioning? How are we surviving? How are we coping with life? What is this work that we are aligning ourselves with? Where is our struggles that we're dealing with? And again, these important conversations can be very transformative, but there can be an intensity, a mental intensity, a penetrative lens with Mercury, Pluto, as well as a practical, structural, real world type of vantage point with Mercury, with Saturn. And keep in mind, you're hearing this report from this Gemini ruled by Mercury, so you can probably get a little taste of this Mercury, Saturn, Pluto from my own voice and intensity today. You know, again, this is real talk. This is real life stuff. This is not a time where escapism or just, blindly, running off into ideal or imaginative dimensions is so possible. And at this time, this is really a good thing. It's an advantage because we need to address these issues. We need to have these conversations. And by thinking about it, talking about it, this can really catalyze some of the ideas, some of the tools, the resources that we may need in order to get real with where things are going. Now, Jupiter has just formed its exact first square to Neptune, also this last Sunday, the 13th. This is one of the ongoing transits through this year of 2019. Jupiter's square to Neptune is largely an exploration into, well, what the heck is the truth? What is real? What is helpful? What is beneficial? What is the greater good? And how can we align with the greater good? This can be a year of really examining or having challenged our own beliefs. And this third quarter square between Jupiter and Neptune can very much be a dissolving of old perspectives or outdated beliefs that are not really healthy, not really serving us, or coming from this more idealistic place that can lead to disillusionment, confusion, or hurting ourselves or others when we're actually trying to help ourselves or others. So really a part of this Jupiter-Neptune square, I'm encouraging everybody that this year is an exploration. We don't have to know exactly what's going on. We don't have to know everything. Nobody knows everything. Nobody is God. This next Tuesday, the 22nd, Venus is going to join Jupiter and squares Neptune on the 20th. And so there's really this adventure that we can be going on these weeks. We can be sharing this adventure with other people. We may be traveling, we may be exploring, we may be opening to new horizons with others. And I very much encourage us to find those others that are exploring the same avenues that we are, the like minds that are open to this adventure that we can be initiating and are willing to explore with us. This is a period of opening up into new avenues of learning and sharing. And it's a wonderful time for us to connect with those people that are giving us a sense of momentum, something to look forward to. This is a time where new teachings and teachers can inspire us, but it is with this open-endedness. There's no conclusiveness to what exactly is going on right now, and that's very important, that nobody burdens themselves with the need to have to figure everything out or to direct the whole world into what's exactly going to be perfect for everybody. It's impossible. The one-size-fits-all religious teaching or health modality or this or that or the other is misleading. It's not helpful. It is usually more harmful than useful, particularly at this time, to have this black and white, one-size-fits-all prescription that's going to apply for everybody. This is not the reality that we live in. Things are complicated. And so we're really examining particularly these truths that are overly simple And we need to outgrow these overly simplified black and white ways of perceiving our reality. Life is complex. So, for example, one of the ways I commonly have this overly simplified black and white perspective, one way of identifying it, I should say, is when people say, oh, just do this, Oh, you're struggling with depression. Well, you just need to meditate, And oh, you have some type of crippling, degenerative disease for which there is no cure. Oh, well, you just need to try this detox. You just need to try this diet. And don't you know that, in aligning with this truth or doing this modality, it's going to work for you. It's going to bring you to the future. It's going to make your life perfect. And these are the types of ideas or beliefs which hurt people, which crucify people, which burden people with this guilt that for some reason we should live an ideal, perfect life because we do something so simple and so easy just because it works for somebody else. Usually the type of people that are giving these overly simplified prescriptions are entitled to luxurious lives where they're not really struggling with the complicated side of life that they cannot actually relate to, and so they come out into the world just like, come on everybody, just do this one thing, it worked for me. And it's just like, no dude, you live an entitled life where you don't have to deal with some of the struggles that other people are dealing with. If you want to help other people get down into the nitty-gritty, messy, complicated side of life. If you start talking to people who have suffered real traumas, who have real disorders, who have real mental or health issues, you know that there is not this overly simple, black and white, one-size-fits-all prescription. No, the sign of the times right now is that we all have these complicated issues. Yeah, and we're waking up to what we may need that may not have this overly simplified, just follow this one step after the next type of prescription. It may take work, it may take exploration, or the perfect solution may not exist for us yet in the world, and we're having to be the ones who are being willing to get down to business and do this journey of exploration for ourselves. In that regard, we can discover some tools and some healing that we can offer to those who may struggle with similar things as ourselves. But we can't burden ourselves that something's not working by trying to shove a square peg through a round hole. The trying to force a square peg through a round hole is probably the number one dynamic we need to be wary of this time, is when this overly forcefulness gets impressed upon us, whether it be via our own needs to achieve or to be successful, or the standard that we set for ourselves that can be quite high. I mean, even today, the sun is squaring asteroid Pallas Athena, which can sometimes create this pressure to accomplish or the fear to accomplish because it's the bar set so high. What if I don't get there soon enough? And this can block our own creativity or our own energy. There's father issues that are coming up this month, which is, how daddy set these bars very high, and this is what success equals, and this is what accomplishment equals. We need to be forgiving and gentle and flexible with ourselves, even when these outer authorities who may reflect the father or that standard of safety or success. Our bosses give us our paycheck. We depend on them for physical security. Therefore, the boss becomes the ruler of our lives in many respects. And while I understand there can sometimes be a level of choicelessness in this, we have to work, we have to survive, we have to do what we need to do to get by. We also need to make sure that we're not overly hurting ourselves with these burdens of expectation in a way that can cause harm to our body, or just being spread too thin. We can be so depleted of energy that we can really burn out or get run down these weeks. So we have to be careful, and some of these things are easier said than done because the pressure can be on these weeks to do more, to work more. January follows the Sagittarius season of spending more, celebrating more, and then there's kind of this catch-up period here in Capricorn season in January. But Mars is squaring Saturn this next Monday, the 21st. There really is this feeling of pushing a boulder up a mountain, or like the car isn't working and now we're pushing the car forward until at least we get it to the shop. Our energy can be tested. Okay, and we have to therefore find the creative solutions, find the compromise. For example, I'm not shooting this video in the woods the way I usually would prefer to because I don't have the time or the energy today. It's really not an option. And if I did try to get to the woods, it would be a crisis, it would be a breakdown, and I just know better. And so we have to find these creative solutions right now, how to make the work a little bit less, just at least break it up, take breaks in between, all right? And there's also this need to honor our own body's needs, our own desires, our own direction, where that Saturn and Capricorn can be the boss, can be society, can be this real world pressure, okay? And it's like we can't just conform and conform or accept that as if it's not oppressing us. It can oppress us, and we therefore have to figure out, well, how can we survive in the world without being oppressed by these dynamics? And there goes the frickin' leaf blower. Perfect timing, sir. A good reminder as why I should have, just gone into the woods, You see that leaf blower? You can't stop me today. So compromise, creative solutions, we just got to do the best that we can and not take it overly seriously at this particular point in time because I just don't have the time to do this video any other time. So here we go. Let's talk, well, first of all, we talked about the Venus-Jupiter happening this weekend, 20th, the 19th to 20th. Asteroid Juno is also square to asteroid Vesta. So there's also this theme going on here of really having to balance our own need for spaciousness and self-autonomy, to be free, to be independent, with this sense of connection and emotional support and feeling nurtured in our relationships. And so this is about not just being alienated, not obsessing over a particular person or group, but finding that balance between independence and connection so we can be really supported in this sense of openness and adventure, where our life is taking us, this new philosophical journey. And yet have that sense of it being an adventure and not being held down into any particular roles or obligations that is oppressing that sense of, well, we're needing to explore, we're needing to open things up. But when we can find that balance and when we can find those people that we're traveling with or exploring with or going on adventures with, this can really bring together a sense of connection, and we're doing work together. We're doing something productive that has meaning, and it's exciting and fills us up. Okay, so let's talk about this full moon lunar eclipse. This is happening just after midnight on the 20th here on the East Coast. This is a full moon at 0 degrees Leo, okay? So the sun moves out of Capricorn into Aquarius Sunday the 20th. Okay, squares Uranus just a couple days before on the 18th. So this is a total lunar eclipse, square to Uranus, trine to Chiron. This is an incredibly restless, exciting, unpredictable, spontaneous lunar eclipse. And that's not just necessarily what's going on the outside. That can very much be a reflection of what we're experiencing on the inside. This is about release. This is about liberation. This is about breaking out of any of the societal molds, expectations, responsibilities, or duties that does not fit who we are as a unique, independent, creative soul. This lunar eclipse right on the Cancer-Leo cusp. I love to call this cusp the cusp of the inner child. It's a very emotional cusp. Cancer is our inner emotional feelings that we're processing internally, whereas Leo is this release of raw emotion, raw energy, like the opera singer or the singer that's channeling that raw emotion out through their voice or through their singing. It's like the opera singer just releases their heart, their voice. And so this is a period where there is this releasing. And particularly this eclipse trine to Chiron can be a cathartic releasing. It may be our soul's innocence, our own inner child. It's almost as much as that inner child, that innocence, that spontaneous radiation of our own individual truth. Leo is our unique self-expression. It's almost as much as that's been limited or shut up or shut down in the past. It's like creating a loaded spring dynamic that's going to want to lift off. And this eclipse square to Uranus can be very erratic, very unpredictable, very spontaneous, and very rebellious. And we do need to have a degree of patience. We do need to be able to slow down enough to process these feelings, understand where they're coming from, and honor that need for liberation and release without doing anything crazy, because this is the type of eclipse where, we get triggered because something our partner said the wrong way, and we break up with them and get in the car and move halfway to Las Vegas, and we're halfway there before we even realize what hit us. We need to slow down. We need to breathe. We need to be able to understand where these feelings are coming from, in which case they can be guiding us into releasing our true self, releasing our true identity, and finding what can give us that sense of specialness in the world by honoring our uniqueness rather than shutting it down. Now, this square to Uranus is squaring the moon's nose to be square to this eclipse. There is a need to break free. Uranus is completing its 8-year transit since 2011 through the sign of Aries, now through March. It is this time for us to release who we are as a unique individual, to be the eccentric, to be the way paver, to be the initiator, to go our own way by honoring our unique desires, even if those desires do come instinctually, if they do come from our gut. That is a part of who we are. That is our own self speaking to and through us. So sometimes we have to break the rules in order to find what fits us. And again, there is this overall theme of societal, cultural deconditioning, breaking down the old rules, expectations, obligations. The cookie cutter no longer is acceptable. The one size fits all, no longer acceptable. It is about releasing who we are, so to honor what unique gifts we are. Leo is like the divinity of being a child of God. Each and every soul has a unique instrument that we contribute to the overall symphony or orchestra. We're all trumpet players and flute players, and we get on our instrument and we let it loose. We let that song be released. And our individual contribution is what makes life beautiful. So there's this need to come back into creativity, to come back into warmth, to remember that spontaneous sense that life is an adventure and we are special and we can do what we want to do. The same way as a child has that sense that they can grow up and be anything because they're special, they're capable. When I grow up, I'll be an astronaut. When I grow up, I'll be a scuba diver. That sense that there's always something to discover on the other horizon. This Venus, Jupiter, and Sagittarius lunar eclipse in Leo wants to let the cat out of the bag. Mars square to Saturn, the challenges are there. The work is there. The boss is hanging over us. The nation is hanging over us. People aren't getting paid. We're all preparing for tax season. And there's this need to be in the world, not escape, not run away. We all can't just run away to hippie communes and expect the world to take care of itself. And yet there is that sense of needing to reconnect with nature, needing to reconnect with our soul's innocence. This lunar eclipse trine to Chiron. Chiron has also been transiting Pisces since 2011 and is about to complete that 8-year transit come February. So these are near decade-long cycles that are now culminating. They're coming to a head. These themes are really building up so we can tie up the loose ends and we can move forward into fundamentally new cycles and directions. This Chiron going through Pisces is about healing our soul's innocence, the sense that we are on an adventure and a journey. Again, there's this looking at beliefs and how these beliefs may be serving us or not. There is this need to end this crippling victimization. For example, one of these overly simplified beliefs is, the world's controlled by aliens or Illuminati or bad people, and therefore we're all just enslaved and there's nothing we can do about it. That's a crippling idea. It's a crippling belief. It takes away our power and gives it to invisible enemies that we may or may not know exists. That can kill our innocence. Another Pisces age belief is that we're all born here via original sin. We're trying to earn our way back to heaven, and then we die, we're graded, and we either spend all eternity in heaven or hell. Puts an existential pressure on being a human being. That's not fair to us. We have this innocence of being on an adventure. Life is a giant exploration to discover what it means to be a human being. We cannot carry these burdens of responsibility through these ideas and beliefs that may in fact make us feel inadequate, that life's not perfect. I didn't positively manifest enough, so my life's not perfect. And then we burden ourselves as if we did something wrong, and we feel guilt or shame or inadequacy or impurity, or like we're disconnected or like we're unclean. When that's not fair to us. We don't have that capability to just think a thought and manifest things. Life is not that simple. And sometimes the overly simplified prescription or perspective can actually cause more harm than help. So this is about healing our sense to a bigger picture. This is about healing our soul's innocence by surrendering, by trusting that there is a reason and a meaning for which everything happens to us. And it's not necessarily punishment. It's not necessarily because we're doing anything wrong, that things are not already perfect yet. So this can be a lunar eclipse of releasing these old fears, these old inadequacies. The sense of guilt or imperfection or impurity is getting cleared out by this lunar eclipse trying to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer that does cathartic, shamanic healing and releasing. The analogy is when we go to a cheap restaurant and we get food poisoning and spend the whole evening purging those toxins into the toilet. It's not necessarily a fun experience, but it serves a very practical, noble endeavor that we're removing those toxins from our system. So follow that trail of breadcrumbs into where these feelings are coming from. They can tell us a lot about ourselves, about our story, about our truth. This lunar eclipse in Leo says, embrace your truth, embrace your story, be an individual. Don't be afraid to go against the grain. Don't be afraid to go in your own direction. Don't even be afraid to break the rules when necessary to honor your heart's truth, because it is your heart's truth that is leading you through this time. It's not the sense of conclusively knowing everything. It's the sense of openness, of surrender, of being willing to be open to new possibilities and new understandings. Those will be the things that hold open the doorway and give us a sense of light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm sorry that I'm being a little bit more fast-spoken and intense for today. It's just a reflection of the nature of the times. I've got to move on to another 100 things to do through today, but I am wishing absolutely the best for you. Please be in touch. Leave your comments below. We need to support each other through these times because it is too much for any one person to be the hero or the divine figure that's saving the day. It is the whole of humanity. It is our species that is stepping up to the plate at this time. Speaking of all the wonderful things going on at this time, we are creating part 2 of the complete course to evolutionary astrology. Go to newparadigmastrology.com. You can sign up for part 2 of the course. We have a free webinar coming up in just about a week where we'll be discussing what we'll be teaching, what we'll be sharing. It's a wonderful resource if you're interested in learning evolutionary astrology. I offer readings, workshops through my website at the link below. Again, wishing the best to yourself and your beloveds. Please do take care.